Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, what's been going on in the league recently?
Well, not a whole lot. Kind of the biggest news, which is going to be the first thing we're going to dive into, is the Edmonton Oilers fired Jay Woodcroft. They cut ties with him, and they have moved on to a new head coach. I'm blanking on his name again here.
Chris Knoblouch?
Yeah. So he was, McDavid's former coach back when he played in the with the Erie Otters in the OHL. Again, this is kind of another move that the Oilers are doing based around McDavid. You got to assume that McDavid obviously had his say in the matter. This is kind of a very, out there hiring. I don't know what are your thoughts?
So I know that not only has McDavid officially said that he was not only was he not in the process of helping them find this new coach, but he allegedly also didn't know that Woodcroft was getting fired when he did. So he said that he's pretty annoyed that people think he's like pulling those strings behind the scenes. That being said, it's Connor freaking McDavid. If he says to do something, you'll probably just do it, right? So it's really hard to know for sure what's going on, but as far as he says, he had no idea.
Okay. See, and that's
I've seen a lot of things that people within the Oilers system a lot of them are upset at this.
I even feel like the fact that McDavid didn't even have a say in this just shows that the Oilers are literally doing everything they can to make McDavid happy to keep him here. And I think that's because they realize that there's a realistic chance that they could lose him if things don't turn around. Like they went out and made his agent, I think, what is he now, the president of hockey operations, and now bringing in his former coach. Just a little bit of background about Chris Knobloch. So he did play in the WHL back in his younger days. He ended up going on to the University of Alberta to play. Pretty shortly after he finished up at the University of Alberta, he went on to be an assistant coach only 2 years later with the Prince Albert Raiders, before the following season going on to be the assistant coach of the Kootenay Ice. And his first season as head coach of the Kootenay Ice, they ended up winning the Western Hockey League to go on to them. Unfortunately, did not win that year. The following season, again with the Kootenay Ice, they lost in round 1. And I got this from someone I know. He was coaching the Kootenay Ice, and when the Kootenay Ice found out that he was negotiating with the University of Alberta to coach there, they ended up firing him, which eventually led to him going to coach in the Erie Otters, which he ended up winning the OHL championship with them in the 2016-2017 season. So that is after McDavid had already been drafted and left. Then after he was done with Erie, he went to be an assistant coach with the Philadelphia Flyers for a couple years, went and joined the Hartford Wolfpack. That is the New York Rangers AHL team. Was the head coach there for 4 seasons. And now he's with Edmonton. But it's kind of just
a decent resume. Like, it's not like they're hiring this guy who has been in the OHL for a bit and nothing else, for sure.
Yeah. I found it funny. Someone pointed out that he couldn't even win the Memorial Cup with the Erie Otters when they had Dylan Strome, who was a beast in the OHL. It didn't fully translate to the NHL level quite as we thought, but still a terrific player in the OHL. So Dylan Strome, Connor McDavid, Alex DeBrincat, Darren Radish, Travis Dermott, Taylor Radish, Mason Marchment. I believe Sorelli was he joined after. I mean, still like a lot of good talent he's had in the Erie Otters and helped them reach that next level for them. He also coached Eric Chernak when he was with the Erie Otters. He's coached a lot of players that have gone on to be very successful NHL players. So I think there is something to be said that he is good with younger players and helps younger players maybe take that next step or transition or prepare them to transition to the NHL a bit better.
Absolutely. Like not only is that a lot of NHL players you just listed, a lot of them are really good NHL players.
Yeah.
Like, that's a decent pedigree there.
What are your kind of initial thoughts on it? Do you think it was the right move for the Oilers to fire Woodcroft, or do you think they should have given him a bit more of a chance, or what's your kind of thoughts on it?
I mean, so I'm just Googling now, what does everyone say about when do we know the majority of teams are locked in? These are probably the ones that are going to be making the playoffs. Everyone says American Thanksgiving. At that point, you know that it's like, what is it? Like 75, 80% of the teams that are in the playoffs or out of the playoffs stay there. Now, we are, as of recording, exactly 1 week away from that. Next Thursday is American Thanksgiving, and the Edmonton Oilers are 5-9-1 with 11 points. That's a lot better than they were for a bit there. They're on a 3-game win streak currently, but they are not looking good right now. And even though I don't necessarily think he deserved to get fired, I mean, you gotta make a change. You cannot miss the playoffs with guys like Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, especially this close to their contracts being up. It's now or never, and when you're losing that many games, I think you gotta make that change. So, if it was it the right change, I don't know. But do I blame Edmonton for making it? Absolutely not. That was
I completely
a massive
agree.
skid.
I don't believe that Jay Woodcroft did anything wrong or deserved to be fired, but they were in a position where something had to change. And I mean, people will point to Ken Holland and blame him. I think Ken Holland has done terrific things there. I think, the Jack Campbell thing and contract looks bad. But at the time, I think every Edmonton Oilers fan was beyond pumped because they thought they had their goalie, the future with McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah. That was everyone's
but
thoughts
again,
at the time.
it's like even firing Ken Holland and bringing in a new GM, that doesn't change anything. But changing the head coach, the guy who's in that locker room, the guy who's trying to rally the team and get them going and helping them reach that next level, I think just had to be changed. And again, I don't think Jay Woodcroft was doing anything wrong. I think he was just ended up being in a very unfortunate situation where Edmonton couldn't get goaltending for the life of them. Realistically, the Edmonton Oilers at this current moment, don't have an NHL caliber goalie in their organization. The way that every goalie's playing, they do not have.
Yeah, they're not playing like it, because I definitely think Stuart Skinner and Jack Campbell can both bring it back, especially Stuart Skinner because he's so young, but
but what they're getting, they're not getting
they need right now.
Yeah, like just even from Jay Woodcroft, just his time there this season with the Oilers alone. Let me just pull it up here to kind of see, like the Oilers, like to start the season, they did not get any wins I'm looking through their whole thing. They don't have a single win so far this season where, and I mean, they don't really have many wins, but out of the wins that they do have, they don't have a single one where it's like, the offense wasn't clicking, just
But the goalie brought it back.
bad puck, their goalie stole a game. Like every win
Yeah.
that they've got, it's really been like the offense has just been thriving. There really isn't much. The goalie just has to at least be serviceable.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a goalie that can steal you a game when things aren't going right, that's not a playoff team. That's not a team that should even
not one
be
in
in playoff
15 games.
consideration.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, a lot of people are being like, the Oilers got to make a trade for a goalie, this and this. What team is really going to be sitting there super inclined to being like, yeah, I got to go out. We're going to go out and help the Edmonton Oilers. Like most teams are sitting there like, okay, we've got a goalie we could trade you, but you're going to have to give us a haul if you want it, because we're not pressured to make a deal to improve the Oilers. I think if other GMs are looking at it and they're like, you know what? If the Oilers suck this year and McDavid and Draisaitl get pissed off enough, there's a chance maybe we could make a move to get them. Like there's just no teams are super inclined to go out and help Edmonton be better and be a playoff team unless they're getting an insane compensation for doing so.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure. I know we talked about it. I can't remember if it was on the podcast, but Jack Campbell's comments on getting sent down to the AHL, he said it really came out of nowhere, and that he was surprised because he thought he was playing well. I think he was the only guy in the league who was that surprised. An .873 save percentage over 5 games, 1 win, 4 losses, like
4.50 goals against, and
like that's tough.
In the AHL so far, he's played 3 games. He's 0-3. He's got a .819 save percentage and a 4.36 goals against average. He's allowed 13 goals against in 3 games in the AHL.
I have seen a lot of people criticizing, I guess, management in the Oilers, because every time these guys eat shit, they get sent out there to the media to get eaten alive. And if it's not them, it's Draisaitl out there, and they're going, hey, you got bad goaltending. What up with that? Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people being like, man, I'm watching my team, and that every single time our goalie has a bad game, they don't let, like, I know specifically a lot of Canucks fans were saying Demko never does post-media availability unless he got like a shutout, and he's feeling it. Because the game is so mental, and especially mental for goalies. If they just got pulled after three goals on 7 shots, and then you send them out there to talk to people, like that's rough, man. Like, definitely partly on the goalies as well, but I would say partly on the management. You know, maybe protect them a little bit. Kind of seems like a free for all in Edmonton.
Yeah, and again, that's just one of the tough things of being in a Canadian market. That's, again, one of the reasons why Radko Gudas decided not to come up and play in Canada for Canadian team, because he didn't want to play in that Canadian market and be under the microscope and, get called out for every single thing he does wrong. We've seen how very quickly the Toronto media and fan base has turned against John Klingberg and Ryan Reeves so quickly. Yeah. Their poor play. Like that's just the way it works in Canadian markets. And yeah, I think especially with a team like Edmonton, where all the pressure is on them, to win in this McDavid Draisaitl era, especially when you see guys like, Steven Stamkos brought 2 cups to Tampa, or was part of the team. At least a big factor in their second cup win. But even like Sidney Crosby, guys like Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, Ovechkin, like there's just so many of these players that were high draft picks in that franchise player and stuck around and won with their team. And I think there's a lot of pressure on McDavid and Draisaitl to bring a cup to Edmonton, or 2 cups or something. And and kind of finish that story there rather than leaving and just going to, say, Toronto and joining their core and winning it there. It's just not the same thing as if they were to be those guys for Edmonton to end the drought for them.
Yeah,
And
I
so I
think a
think
lot
they
of
get a lot of
people.
attention for that storyline alone, and that just kind of bleeds out into their surrounding players on the team.
Yeah, I think a lot of people they see it's happened, like you said, all those players a lot since around 2000. A lot of these really high picks, and especially first overall picks, stick with their team for a while, and if they do move, it's later in their career, and they've already won a cup there, and they bring glory to the team that drafted them. But
Yeah.
it doesn't always shape out that way, and it really doesn't have to. Like if shit's not working out for you in your one market, absolutely pack your bags if it's just not going on there. Like, yeah, it's a really random how you end up. You're just a good hockey player, and then one of 32 teams gets you, and you're just like picking up your life and moving there. Like, whether
Yeah.
it's the city or the team or the people managing the team, there's plenty of reasons that a guy might like or dislike where he ends up. So
Yeah.
it's based on recency. I think there's a lot of pressure on them to win specifically in Edmonton, but I wonder how much to them it's I want to win in Edmonton and how much they're just like I want that fucking cup ring. I don't care how I get it.
Yeah, and again, it's tough when the Oilers start off the way they do and they make that coaching change, but they're still so far behind. Like the Canucks are 12-4-1. That's they're third in the league, like 25 points. That is such a huge ground now for the Oilers to try and catch up because again, I think we kind of already established that the Golden Knights and the Kings are kind of at least locking up two of those three Pacific spots. The Canucks are still they're getting better and better. Like as of right now, I mean, JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, all three of them tied for the league lead in points with 26. Brock
Yeah.
Besser tied for first in the league in goals with 13. Quinn Hughes leads the league in assists. Pettersson is 2. Quinn Hughes leads in plus minus. Thatcher Demko is tied for second in wins, fifth in goals against average, fifth in save percentage, tied for second in shutouts. Like their big guys are getting it done.
They're going nuclear.
And those aren't
like
the
they're
type
all
of, and
having
those aren't,
MVP level
yeah,
performances. It's incredible.
like this is just insane for the Canucks. And even if those guys have an off night, they still have good enough depth and still a balanced enough team between guys like Philip Hronik, Connor Garland, Kuzmenko. Like they've got guys that can step up and get it done if those top guys don't have a good game. And if the team's struggling offensively for a game, they've still got Demko who can bail them out and steal them a game. And that's such a huge difference between Vancouver and Edmonton is even if you say like on average a playoff team gets what about like say 40 to 50 wins somewhere in there, kind of give or take.
Yeah,
You got
on
to
average.
assume out of that, say, just to be generous, a goalie for those teams probably steals at the bare minimum 7 games.
Yeah,
8
I'd
games,
say at
somewhere in
least
there.
5 probably.
And so if you put that the minimum, say 7, that's 14 points that the Canucks would gain over the Oilers because the Oilers don't have the goaltending to steal a game for them. And especially, I think an issue is also the Sharks kind of expose them a bit. Like if the Sharks are a team that are, I mean, they did finally put up a decent amount of goals tonight against the Blues when they put up 5. But the Sharks were getting so many good opportunities against Edmonton. It's like if a team like San Jose can expose Edmonton that bad, defense is probably also a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of all really I have to say about Edmonton. Like, I feel bad for Woodcroft. I think that the stats behind him, like the amount of wins, the playoff wins, the success the team's had under him, I think is incredible. I think it's really he just ended up in a horrible situation where the team really just wasn't getting goaltending.
Yeah.
And it's tough. Like it's no fault of his own. I'm sure he'll, within the next year, probably next offseason even, he'll find his way to a new team. I think he'll go on to still have a very successful career. Just unfortunately, just didn't work out in Edmonton. Sometimes that's, just the way it goes.
Yeah.
There's not much more he could have done.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe the Sharks will pick him up.
He's got connections to San Jose.
I'm also just looking here, anyways. And it's interesting that this is San Jose's fourth win on the season, I believe. Third, and all three of those have come at home. They're still winless away, which people might look at as a problem for them, but I think that's awesome. That if they are the few games they do win, they're at least giving it to their home fans.
Exactly, right.
If they're going to be few and far in between, give it to the home fans, not the away fans.
I will say I'm also not 100% sure because unfortunately I got the St. Louis feed, but it's starting to sound like, and this is really weird to me because Couture was fine in, at the beginning of training camp. It sounds like he suffered a minor injury. It's just a little setback from what they said. The St. Louis reporter, or at least the color commentary guy, was saying that he spoke to Couture while they were in San Jose, and it sounds like there's a chance that Couture might not even play at all this season, which I think is pretty bizarre because I didn't think it was that serious, and I don't think it is. I think he'll still return at some point.
What was his injury again?
No one knows.
Oh, wow.
Reporters have tried asking Couture when he was available to the media, and he didn't want to get into it. He didn't even really say what happened to cause it, so there's really nothing out there about what his injury is. So it'll kind of be interesting to see whether or not he comes back. Because I think if you, the way the Sharks are right now, I think if you insert like Couture and Barabanov back into the lineup, who are both top players in your top six, I think that makes a huge difference for the team. But yeah, so that's just maybe something to kind of keep an eye on and see if, Couture comes back at any point this season. And if he does, maybe if he's actually back and healthy, we'll kind of get more clarity on what was going on with him, because no one really knows still.
Yeah. I got one more incredibly quick thing on the Oilers, and then one thing that relates to them, but it'll move to something else.
Okay.
The first thing, I just saw a lot of people talking about this online. I figure it's funny enough to bring up. The streak of penis-related names of Edmonton Oilers head coaches continues. The streak is now at 4. So they
Tippett, Woodcroft, Knobloch.
And before that was Ken Hitchcock.
I was gonna say, I was like, what? I was like, it's not Tom McClellan. Yeah, that is 3 in a row or 4. Yeah.
Yeah, they brought in the big knob.
Look into that. Some people, man, just go out of their way to find the silliest things to.
Yeah, it's really an off-season thought for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to bring up was, as bad as their save percentages look, they are not as bad in Edmonton as some people might think. Just because going through here. So I'm going to start at let's go the last 10 years. So I'm starting at 2014-15, and I'm going to read till this current season's current stats. So these are the league average save percentages. I'm surprised not only at how much they've changed, how freaking high they were. This is 14-15, a .915 save percentage. That's league average. That's not...
Damn.
That's almost a borderline elite to me, but that's average back then. 15-16 is also .915. Then it goes down to .913, .912, .910, .910, .908, .907, .904 last year, and this year .903. So it's still going down.
You can see it just keeps going down. Yeah, the scoring in the league just keeps going up year by year.
Like, if it goes down a couple more points, 900 is going... Like, a lot of people act like if it starts with an 8, it's not NHL caliber. The average right now is 903. So if you're sitting at like an 899 or an 898, you're not that far off. You're a little under average, sure, but it doesn't mean you can't have a job in the NHL. And in the mid 90s, Like, a lot of these years, like 93, 94 was a 895. 94, 95 was a 901, 898, 905, 906. Like, we're
Yeah.
not super far off from the save percentages of the mid 90s. Like,
Hmm.
if they keep going, like, guys, like, I mean, we just saw McDavid put up, what was it, 153, 154 points in a season. Like,
Yeah.
the days of that being super rare might be coming to an end. I don't think many guys will be getting that, but maybe the second to fifth guys in scoring in the league could all reach 115, 120, and McDavid could put up whatever he wants.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like it's definitely becoming a lot more difficult for goalies. I just think if you've got a goalie that's really like, and again, that's just the average, but I think if you're getting a goalie throughout the course of a regular season being your starter, if he's below 900 save percentage, that's probably not a team that's going to win the cup, because I think you
No.
need a goalie that can be solid and stand on his head and at least give you an above 900 in the playoffs. But again, like I agree with what you're saying. I don't think it's as bad for the Oilers with their goaltending as it's being made out to be, but it's definitely not anything they can win a cup with.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just pointing out that 5 years
Yeah.
ago it was average was 910, now it's 903, so it's like, you know, go look at save percentages nowadays with the knowledge of 903 being the average, It's
Yeah.
if a guy has a 910, he's not average anymore. He's pretty damn good. He's a solid starter. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
I just saw that stat earlier and I thought that was interesting.
Something actually that I just kind of thought of. I thought of two things actually that are kind of going on in the league right now. So the first one is Patrick Kane. It's now been reported that he's kind of starting to meet with some teams and starting to try and narrow down where he's going to sign. It's kind of sound like within the next 2 weeks, he'll probably be signed somewhere. There's multiple teams that are out there right now. Like Toronto is one, Detroit, Buffalo, obviously Florida. The New York Rangers are now out of contention for Patrick Kane, by the sounds of it.
Oh, okay.
What do you kind of make of this? Like, what do you think Patrick Kane is going to bring to um, a team, and what do you think a contract may look like?
I guess it really depends how much he's been, has he been enjoying a couple months off that he hasn't had in over 15 years, or has he been training like crazy? Because that makes a world of difference, especially at the age he's getting to. What is he? Probably 34,
He
35?
turns 35 in 2 days.
There you go. It's
The biggest thing I have with Kane is the fact, so he's coming off the hip surgery that both Ryan Kessler and Nicholas Backstrom got.
right.
And we saw with Ryan Kessler after that surgery, he really wasn't ever able to come back at the level he was. Nicholas Backstrom, we talked about him 2 weeks ago, that he has now stepped away from the Washington Capitals just due to not feeling right after the surgery. He might never even play again. I'm not sure. And I think that's a big thing that, especially in a world where in the NHL now, where cap space is so important and bad contracts really hinder teams. I think with Kane coming off this surgery and again going to be 35 years old, I really don't see any team, like I think we're going to see Kane sign a 1 year deal at
Yeah.
1.5 million or something, which I think could still be very, very good value. But I just don't see any teams willing to be like, yeah, we'll give you a 3 year deal at $4 million or something. Because
Absolutely. I
not only
think
do
he might get
some of those
one
teams
year.
not, yeah, like, and some of those teams don't even have the cap space or anything, like Buffalo does. But again, I
Yeah.
think teams are just going to be a little bit too weird and be like, you know what? Sign a 1 year deal with us. If it works out, we'll give you an extension. We can do the Joe Thornton route that he did with San Jose. Just keep signing 1 year deals and just stick around with us. And as long as things keep rolling, we're more than happy to have you. But I think that's just, again, coming off that surgery is just is so key that teams don't want to go out and give up a lot of money. And then even if he's, can still keep playing, but he's not performing, that's dead cap space at that point. I think that's just, for some teams, that's just too big of a risk.
Yeah,
To
I definitely
give
think
out a big
one
contract.
year. He's definitely gonna get 1 year at least on this one. I think he's gonna still try and get a good chunk of change. I think he's gonna try and get 4 mil at least.
He's gonna try, and I don't blame the
he
guy.
ends up getting.
Yeah.
And if he goes somewhere and puts up 40 points in the next 60 games or something like that, I could see a team bringing him back if he does that well and giving him two, if he's really good, maybe 3 years, but at still a low cap. But yeah, I definitely think it starts with a 1 year contract. As for how he plays, a lot of what Kane does is helped by his skating, and if that's hindered at all by the surgery, that's going to take a pretty big blow because he's already been declining pretty bad defensively. On top of defense never being a strong suit, he's got like 1,300 career points. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Some guys are just they're so good and they just can't make it because they're defensive liabilities at this point. And that's why it took forever for Barre Boulet to get a real shot in the NHL, because he just kept bouncing around because he'd get called up, he'd get 3 points in 4 games, then he'd get sent back down because he was just such a defensive liability. So if he can still move out there, I think he's still got 3-4 years left at least.
And that's huge. Kind of all the teams aside from, I think, Buffalo currently at this moment that are in contention are all teams that are going to be in playoff contention, or at least in it as of right now. And adding a guy like Patrick Kane can do wonders for those teams. So it'll be interesting to see where he eventually where he ends up signing, because it kind of sounds like we'll know within the next 2 weeks where he's going. The second thing, little bit of local news. Nikita Zadorov has requested a trade out of Calgary. This coming after their game against the Maple Leafs. It ended up coming out pretty quickly afterwards that he wants out. What are your thoughts on Big Z wanting out of Calgary?
It's just upsetting, really. Not because Zadorov personally or anything. It's just, it sucks. We live in Calgary. We know so many Flames fans, so many friends and family, and people just keep wanting to get the fuck away from this team, and it sucks to watch.
Yeah.
Like, it really sucks, especially how good they were as little as 2 to 3 years ago.
I mean, everything kind of comes back to that hell of an offseason where, Johnny Gaudreau walks, Tkachuk doesn't want to stay, so they tried to trade him. It's Conroy's kind of stuck with the mess Tree Living made. I don't blame them for, at the time it looked awesome getting Huberdeau, Weegar, and a first for Tkachuk. Weegar's looked.
That's an absolute king's ransom for a dude asking out. That is, regardless of how it shaped out, I still think that was an absolute gangbusters move on his part.
Yeah,
with the knowledge we all had.
Yeah, and then now it's just a tough position for the Flames, really, because you can't really just start. I mean, you've got Zadorov who wants out. It kind of sounds like you're probably going to lose Hanifin now. It sounds like they were pretty close to having a contract extension signed for him, and then the Flames stopped because they wanted to focus on this season and try and turn things around first. It's kind of going 50-50 since then. But I think they probably lose Hanifin now, probably Lindholm. And again, it's tough because I think you can only really try and go for a retool. Like, you can't do a full rebuild.
They have too many guys long
with
term.
guys like
Kadri,
with like
Huberdeau, and
Uyghur.
Markstrom. Like that's too many guys long term. You have the core there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough.
And I mean, and the thing is so the more you look at, like, it sucks losing a guy like Elias Lindholm. But the thing is if you keep him, like, what is he? He's 30 years old right now. So to keep him, you probably have to give him an 8-year extension at probably around $9 million. And that's like, I love Elias Lindholm. I think he's awesome in Calgary, but that contract would end up looking bad near the
that would be
tail
worse
end
than the Huberdeau contract.
Yeah, like, and with Zadorov, I mean, like, the Flames kind of have to trade him now. Like, he's on the final year of his deal. I don't think the Flames owe him anything. Like, I get if he wants out right away. If I'm the Flames, I'm sitting with him until they get the
Absolutely.
best possible deal, because Zadorov had all offseason to want out. Back at the draft, the worst possible time, like around 10, 12 games into the season, you request a trade when teams kind of already have their rosters finalized. It's harder with cap space. Like, he didn't do any favors to himself waiting to do it now. And so the Flames got it, and he's still a hell of a player. I think his trade value could even increase still. I think it is pretty high for a guy like him. But if I'm the Flames, they could wait till the trade deadline to make this move, because you got to get the best possible return you can get for a guy like that, who many teams are going to be all over trying to acquire.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely don't need to rush with this one. Yeah, one thing you said there that was interesting to me is that I always hear is with Hanifin, how the team was getting somewhere with contract negotiations, and then they said, no, we want to focus on the season. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, it blows my mind that, like, these big organizations don't have enough people that you can delegate these things to somebody else getting it done. And like,
and I think
you can't do that and focus on the season. Like, you're the Calgary Flames. You can't do those two things at once,
I feel like that's kind of just a cop-out thing they say. I think the biggest thing is they're realizing, like, okay, we're not winning with this team. We're not going to go out and just make drastic moves and lock up Lindholm and Hanifin with the rest of the core they have, if this core can't even win regular season games and be in a playoff position. So I understand it. And I think for guys, again, I think Tanev probably ends up getting moved just because final year of his deal. So between Tanev, Zadorov, Hanifin, Lindholm, you can get a lot of good draft picks or prospects coming back to
absolutely
try and do a quick, because again, they got to try and do a quick retool on the fly. You can't tear it down and do a rebuild. You got to try and, move out some guys, bring in some different pieces, and try and do it on the fly. And it'll be interesting to see how Craig Conroy can navigate through that. He's kind of been thrown into a tough situation, so it's going to be really interesting to see how he can make the most out of this now.
Yeah, that's the silver lining. All these pieces that want out are good pieces. That sucks, but that means they have value. Like, you should be able to get a lot of stuff for these guys. Like, especially if they do some sort of sign-in trade with Lindholm. Like, if you know you're getting Lindholm for 3-4+ years, like, that's gonna take some value for sure. So, and maybe a team like the Bruins, I know the Bruins have been linked a lot with Lindholm. I don't know if that's officially or if that's just people thinking it'll work out because they just lost a two-way center.
I think that's more so people just throwing that out there, like Boston could be. And then there's also, the rumors of Boston doing something with sending Allmark to Edmonton for Nugent Hopkins and something like. It's just very easy to link these forwards to Boston because it's like they just lost their top two centers. They're still looking very good even without them, but just adding one of those guys could make them even better. So I think that's just kind of the area that people kind of gradually turn to when looking at some of these forwards. But I think Boston could be a very good fit for for a guy like Lindholm.
Yeah,
And I think he kind of fits
absolutely.
right in with their team currently and the kind of the core that they're trying to run with right now for the however long.
Yeah.
But
Lin-
it's just tough for the Flames organization, Flames fans, like all these players that they've kind of come to love over the last couple years, and having them won out and whatnot. Like that's tough. Like that's not easy for fans, especially fans that are as diehard as we've seen Flames fans are.
yeah, like it's one thing to just eat shit and lose, right? But when it's the
Yeah.
players want, Kachuk, like God, this city loved Matthew Kachuk, and with a full year left on his contract, said, "Get me out of here." Like that blows.
I think a
Like,
big part that I think kind of the initial downfall of what really started, like obviously the Kachuk Goudreau thing really hurt them. But I just keep looking back now and looking at how good Sean Monahan is looking with Montreal. It just blows my mind that Calgary was like, Monahan's been our number one center for the last, 8 or so years. He's one of the top players out of his draft class. He's kind of our franchise center that we are rolling with. And just because of injuries, to get out of 1 year of his deal, they ship him off to Montreal with a first round pick. If you're trading your, your guy that was your number one center for that long, well, he's still kind of in his prime just because of injuries, and you have to attach a first round pick to get rid of him. Like that is just tough.
just
Like,
take, yeah, if it's only 1 year and the cost really is one first, dude, just deal with it for the year.
yeah,
Like, it's similar to the Canucks. They had 1 year left on the Oliver Ekman-Larsson contract, and they traded for all these other bad ones, or whichever
no,
contract
it was the
had
Canucks
1 year
gave up.
left.
The Canucks got rid of it was Jay Beagle, Louis Eriksson, and Roussel, all their deals. They all had 1 year left on the deals, but it was like
Yeah,
13 million in cap space between them or something, and a first round pick, which was the 9th overall pick
which is a
for
really good
Oliver
pick.
Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland, who ended up buying out Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and it kind of sounds like they're trying to trade Connor Garland. So that's just, again, that's one of those deals that just looks so terrible for the Canucks, rather than just
Yeah,
using that 9th overall pick, getting a great player like a Dylan Guenther that would probably be thriving with their team currently,
yeah.
just to get out of all those 1 year lefts of bad contracts. And now they're paying Ekman-Larsson, out the remainder of his deal. Now they got to be stuck with that cap penalty. And like, yeah, that's just one of those deals that looks terrible for the Canucks in the end, which kind of looked like it was actually a pretty solid deal for them initially, because it was like Oliver Ekman-Larsson is a defenseman they could use. Connor Garland was looking awesome with the Coyotes, but again, yeah, it's just one of those trades that down the line just starts to look worse and worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, is that do we have much more that we wanted to go through?
Um, I don't think so. I think kind of all that took up actually quite a bit longer than we thought. But I know you did have something you wanted to.
Yeah,
You had.
I had a little thing. Before we get into that, usually I'm going to try and start doing these around the top of the show, but this time it'll be down here later on. Just listing off some of the stat leaders. Like you said earlier, points leaders, we got 26 apiece for Quinn Hughes, Pettersson, and Miller. And we got Artemi Panarin, David Pasternak, and Nikita Kucherov just behind them.
Yeah.
Hello. There we go.
You got to figure it out
My
over there.
compute, yeah, my computer is having massive issues just trying to load the page that I was already on. I switched tabs and it's very upset at me.
Because Quinn Hughes' balls are so big this season. It's just causing your computer to crash. Can't handle him. He's been
Like
so
actually,
good, though.
he has been really good. Great
Like, it's
defensively
just
too.
insane.
There we go.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
right now, like it's looking so clear. Like he should, like, if he maintains this, man, he's gonna have just a record-breaking season, and like
he's gonna win the Hart Trophy if he keeps it up.
yeah, and he's like it could be, assuming things go the way that they have been going, and I kind of hope they do because I don't mind the Canucks. I'm a big Quinn Hughes fan. Like Quinn Hughes could not only win the Hart, but could be a unanimous Norris Trophy winner, and to do that when you got guys like Adam Fox, McAvoy, Makar, like all these, and there's still numerous other great defensemen in the league. Like, just Quinn Hughes is playing
Yeah.
at a level that's miles ahead of all of them.
Yeah, and it's when he was around 13, 14 points, it was like, wow, he's doing really good. Now we're at the point where it's like he's done it for a while now. So it's pretty impressive. For goals, we got a 3-way tie as well, 13 apiece for Brock Besser, Kyle Connor, and Austin Matthews. Plus minus, Quinn Hughes at 18, Braden McNabb and Alexander Barkov in second, both with 13. Quinn Hughes is 5 above the next guy.
Yeah.
Gorgiev is in the lead for wins with 9. Save percentage goes to Jeremy Swayman with a 944. Nothing to sneeze at there. Swayman almost also leading with goals against average of 169. Nice. And all right, that's the players. Let's go to some of the teams. We got the Boston Bruins leading the Atlantic with 26 freaking points. Then we have the Florida Panthers with 21, Red Wings with 19, Leafs with 18, tied with Tampa with 18, Canadians with 16, Sabres with 15, and Sens down all the way at the bottom with 14 points, which is still not horrible. The Rangers, didn't know they were doing this well either. Jeez. 23 points.
They've been on a roll.
Cooking. 9-0-1 in their last 10. So I guess that'll do it, huh? Rangers with 23 points, Caps with 18, Hurricanes with 18, Devils 17, Flyers 17, Penguins 16, Islanders 15, and the Blue Jackets with 12. Over in the Western Conference, we got the Dallas Stars with 23, Avs with 20, Jets with 18, Coyotes with 18. Nice start to the season for Arizona. 17 for the Blues, 12 for the Wild, 10 for the Blackhawks, and 10 for the Preds. And then we have the Pacific, 27 points for the Golden Knights, 25 for the streaking Vancouver Canucks, 21 for the Kings, 18 for the Ducks, good for them, 16 for the Kraken, 14 for the Flames, 11 for the Oilers, and 7 for the Sharks. Yeah, that's if you're listening for your team, it's in there somewhere.
Before we hop into the last thing you had here, one of the things we want to try to do a little bit more, we kind of rambled on about some other stuff a bit longer than we thought, but something we're trying to do is maybe second one, maybe take a little bit of time to just talk about just random teams around the league and kind of assess where they're at in different things. Again, like there is, 32 teams in the league, so it is kind of tough to talk about every team and give some airtime to every team and to those fans who are listening and wanting to hear us talk about their teams. So for anyone out there, if we don't talk about your team enough, or there's things you kind of know about your team that we don't, feel free to always shoot us messages on Instagram or Twitter/X, or tag us and stuff. Reach out to us and kind of let us know what your favorite team is, some things you want us to talk about, because again, like there's 32 teams, so it's tough for us to kind of be in the know on everything with every team, and then still find that time in the episodes to talk about all these teams and whatnot. So if you want us to talk about your team, just feel free to start throwing stuff at us, and we will. Anyone who
DM, a public tweet, like whatever you want, tag us in whatever. Like we're still.
We're not naive. We know we're still kind of in the early stages of this whole podcast and it getting off the ground. It keeps trending upward. If you want to be one of those first people in the end, if you throw anything at us, we are for sure going to see it, and we will for sure talk about it, and we will bring whatever you offer to the table for us. We will bring it on here, discuss about it. So if you want us to talk about your team more, or your favorite players, or whatever you want, just feel free to tag us and stuff, message. Just throw stuff out there. We will see it, and we will do our very best to talk about it as much as possible. And you can find us over on both Instagram and Twitter /X at SEU Hockey. Just Google that or I guess can't really Google it on there, but go in the search bar, search it up. You will find us. We're starting to slowly become more active on there. And anything you throw at us, we will see. And anything you throw at us, we will see, and we will 100% talk about. That is the Stick 'em Up podcast guarantee. Braden, you've got the final topic subject of the episode. Yeah. What do you got for us?
Yeah. One other thing I just wanted to tag on what you were going right there. Like, we as hockey fans, we know a lot of other hockey fans, but like ones that I know personally, so that like I keep up a little more. Like, I'm a fan of the Lightning. You're a fan of the Sharks. We know plenty of Calgary and Oilers fans, quite a few Leafs fans, some Canadiens fans, a couple Pittsburgh fans because of Crosby. Other than that, I'm looking at all these other teams, a couple Canucks fans. That's about it. Like, so
yeah, like I want
if you're a fan of any team that we didn't just name, absolutely hit us up for
I want the Dallas Star fans, telling me what's going on with them. I want the Columbus Blue Jackets fans, maybe giving us their thoughts on what's going on with Gaudreau and Laine there. Why aren't things clicking there? I would love to hear from St. Louis Blues fans. Like, are you still a fan of Binnington, or is he a big crybaby? Like, it's just anything to throw out there to get us talking about your team, getting us interacting with you. You throw us a DM, we're going to respond. We'll talk hockey with you. Like, we just want to get engagement and, talk about some teams that just maybe don't get as much love as maybe you guys feel that they should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, big shout out tonight. Kaapo Kähkönen, 45 saves against the Blues. Woo! That's his first win in his last 9 starts, and he balled out. So
978.
For a guy that I constantly shit on, like I do a lot, and it's fair. I am within my right to do that, but I got to give credit where credit's due. He balled out tonight against a Blues team that's been good this year as well. Fair. I talked about the Blues in a good way, because I don't do that very often.
You're
anyways,
an inspiration.
What do you got here for us?
So the other day I was just hanging out, and I was just thinking to myself, there are all kinds of players around the league that I have random opinions on. Some of them are like specific reasons, and whether I like them or don't, and some of them are completely vibes based. I feel like they're a good player, but I don't really know. I don't watch them that much. Some of them I just like naturally. Some of them I dislike naturally, actually. So I'm just curious to see. So I've got a bunch of pairs of players, and I'm just going to list them off to you. And I just want you to say the name of the player that you would say in general you like more.
Well, what do you mean like more? Like me personally, or like which player I'd rather have on my team?
No, this has nothing to do with who's the better actual player.
Liking.
Yeah, okay. Like if these guys,
player I would cheer for more.
Yeah, if one of these guys were to trip and have their pants fall down outside, which one would you not want this to happen to?
Okay. I'm basically just going to view it from the perspective. If it was these two players, which one would I want to see more on my favorite team?
Yeah.
Which honestly kind of fucking sucks for me, because every time one of my favorite players ends up, and this has happened to me 3 times now, in the last 8 years as a Sharks fan, where one of my favorite players who's not on the Sharks comes to the Sharks, and it doesn't work out. It's happened with Mikhail Bodker, Erik Karlsson. It was up and down, and then Mikhail Granlund kind of getting him at the tail end of his prime. So I just have bad luck with that. But let's hear these players.
Yeah. And you know what? If people like hearing this this little segment, maybe we'll do it again with some more depth players kind of thing, because these guys are almost all stars, or at least
we got to give love to depth
names.
players. Depth players need love. They're just as important.
I'm gonna pressure you on this a bit. As soon as I'm done saying the second name, I'm gonna start counting. You got 5 seconds to give me your gut reaction. You don't have to think about it too hard.
Okay.
All right. First one: Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid?
Sidney Crosby.
Steven Stamkos or Alexander Ovechkin?
You're gonna hate me, but Ovi.
I figured you'd say Ovi. Cale Makar or Adam Fox?
Cale Makar.
Austin Matthews or Nathan McKinnon?
I'm a Canadian, but Austin Matthews.
Ooh, you went
His
with
personality
AN34.
and whatnot. Cheeks, like, come on.
There was a lot of people, when I posted this on Reddit, there was a lot of people who picked Matthews specifically because he's just got that personality. Leon Draisaitl or Nikita Kucherov?
Nikita Kucherov.
Jack Hughes or Elias Pettersson?
Oh, that's the toughest one. Pettersson.
Oh, he did go Pettersson. Almost everyone unanimously said Jack Hughes on that one.
Yeah, I kind of scrambled a bit and went with Pettersson, but
they're both really good players and both seem pretty cool. Matthew Tkachuk or Brady Tkachuk?
So if you asked me this 2 years ago, I would have said Brady, but after the playoffs last year, I'm going with Matthew.
That's fair.
Because that playoff run was just insane, and my respect level for him went through the roof.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. Braden Point or Johnny Gaudreau?
Braden Point.
Quinn Hughes or Rasmus Dahlin?
Quinn Hughes.
Anze Kopitar or Claude Giroux?
You know what? Even though I'm a Sharks fan, Anze Kopitar.
Ooh. Evgeny Malkin or Corey Perry?
As a Sharks fan, Evgeny Malkin.
Artemi Panarin or Mitch Marner?
Mitch Marner.
Boone Jenner or Tomas Hertl?
Well, obviously Hertl. I love Boone Jenner, but obviously Hertl, my favorite player in the league. So,
Erik Karlsson or Victor Hedman?
Erik Karlsson.
That's fair. Kyle Connor or Mika Zibanejad?
Kyle Connor. Probably Kyle Connor, my top 3 favorite players, not on the Sharks.
Outside of the Sharks? Yeah, I kind of figured. You every time I get him in fantasy, you are all over me.
Yeah. Can't believe I didn't take him this year.
Mikko Rantanen or David Pasternak?
Pasternak.
Ooh, that one kind of surprised me a little bit. John Tavares.
A lot of people think I'm a Pasternak hater, but I'm not.
No, you just roast him on Twitter, and it's fine.
Yeah.
John Tavares or Mark Stone?
No. That's a tough one. I mean John Tavares, like, obviously, but like I'm not happy picking that.
That one's actually funny because a lot of people online were pretty easy to pick with that one. But yeah, because you don't like Tavares because he kind of screwed over the Islanders, right?
Yeah.
But obviously,
and again,
you don't like Mark
it was within his own right. I just don't like the way he handled it. Like, again, I think Tavares was 100% in his right to do what he did. I just don't like the way he went about it. But Mark Stone, like, first of all, he plays for Vegas. Second of all, he's, in my opinion, the biggest crybaby in the league. So I would not pick him. I don't think there's many players I would pick Mark Stone over, actually.
Yeah, biggest crybaby in the league. I see you haven't seen Tim Stützle play.
Well,
No,
he's up there.
no,
He's just more of a
really
diver,
good.
though. He's just more of a diver. Whereas Mark
Yeah.
Stone will, like, again, I don't know. I just think that's weird. Like, if you're the captain of an NHL team and you're crying to the media about a hit that was made on you in a preseason game, like, it's just a bad look. But he's got a cup, so he probably doesn't give a fuck what I have to say. What's the next one you got?
The next one's an absolute layup for you. John Carlson or Brent Burns?
Oh, Brent Burns. Brent Burns all day.
Big Burnsy. Alexander Barkov or Elias Lindholm?
Lindholm. I do like Barkov, but
yeah, you might be the only
Lindholm
person on the Reddit post who has said Lindholm. A lot of people.
I think that's a lot of that's just me being from the area. I think really.
I was to say a lot of people I think didn't choose him just because they're like, I never watch Flames games.
Yeah.
Jacob Trouba or Evander Kane?
Jacob Trouba. Only because with Kane you know you're getting more than just the player on the ice. You're getting all the off ice baggage. So
that's fair.
Tom Wilson. I loved him with San Jose though.
That's fair. Tom Wilson or Brad Marchand?
Oh, Brad Marchand.
Yeah, I figured
that's
you'd go with him.
That's a guy I want captaining my team.
Jonathan Huberdeau or Kirill Kaprizov?
Kaprizov.
Last one, Jordan Binnington or Tony DeAngelo?
That's fucking rude. I'm not answering. I'm abstaining. I'm not answering that. Because I don't want anyone to clip me saying I like this player. Yeah, I ain't picking.
That one, the Wilson Marchand and the Trouba Kane, a lot of people were upset that I put those in there because they're like, I don't want to answer this.
See, that's funny though. Like, those are fun ones to throw in there.
Yeah, I was just curious to see, like, is there one that they blatantly hate more, or like? But a lot of people answered all of them, and those three were just like, no, I'm not answering. A bag of pucks.
You know what? I will say this: Jacob Trouba gets a lot of hate fairly for some of his dirty hits and whatnot, but on an off-ice perspective, a lot of the stuff he did in Winnipeg and stuff he's now doing in New York, I think is awesome. I think, again, like I think when he's on the ice, I think he's a tool. I think he takes exception to vulnerable players, but a lot of the stuff he does off ice is really cool and is awesome. So I will give him respect for that. Because again, that's just something again that a lot of people always just hate on a player for their on ice stuff, but a lot of the stuff players do off ice, I think, does matter. So I will give Trouba his credit there. Whereas Kane, I mean, you know, it's a 1-20 ratio of good off ice things to bad off ice things. So, but Binnington and DeAngelo, I'm abstaining. If I had to pick, because I'm maybe there's people who want to know, I would pick Binnington just because obviously I'm not going with DeAngelo just based on all his off ice stuff. Binnington, all of his stuff is on ice stuff. That makes me dislike him. Off ice, I don't really know much about him, but DeAngelo's off ice stuff is far worse. So
yeah,
I'll pick Binnington. I don't like Binnington, so nothing can get clipped there now.
Personally, that's I was surprised that, because I knew a lot of people would say Ovi, but I was surprised how many had Ovechkin over Stamkos, just because generally I feel like a lot of people around the league like Stamkos, but because I generally dislike Ovechkin just because, you know, the whole Putin thing. He just seems like a bit of a wanker like that. Like,
I have a lot of respect
because he's incredible on the ice, obviously.
Yeah, I give a lot of respect to Ovechkin. Him and Malkin are kind of the two Russian players that I really look at. These are guys that, you know, have never wavered since being in the league. They constantly are like, no, like I'm not just upping and leaving to Russia at any point. Like, I want to play in the best league in the world and go up against the best, and so I'm gonna stick around the NHL and do that. And I have a lot of respect for those, because we see a lot of Russian players that, you know, will be on making lots of money in the NHL or doing good, and then they'll just up and leave and go back to Russia because they can. And Ovechkin and Malkin are two guys that haven't done that yet. They're getting into the, you know, kind of the last couple years of their career and are still sticking around. So I have a lot of respect for those two.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Yeah, you know, your Kovalchuks and whatnot heading back to Russia.
Also, if there's anyone who liked this little segment we did here, you know, maybe we'll, you know, if you want, or, you know, if people let us know and say they like it, maybe in the future we'll do this again and maybe try doing it with, again, maybe depth players, maybe coaches,
or maybe we'll just tweet out one
goalies,
matchup
like,
at a time.
Yeah,
and see
like,
what people
something like that.
respond.
There's no shortage of players we can do, or again, we can do coaches or something. Like, it's
yeah.
Or we could even get freaky with it. We could do something like these two teams' logos. Which logo do you like more? Type of thing. Like, there's numerous ways we can go about kind of doing these rapid pick one type of thing. So, I mean, if you like it, let us know. I think we'll gladly kind of keep doing stuff like this.
Yeah. I was surprised that not surprised. I was surprised how many people picked that they like Draisaitl over Kucherov, just because Kucherov. I'm not going to say his game's clean, but he's a lot less dangerous since around 2020. Especially with the frequency of Draisaitl chopping at people.
I mean, the first thing when you said those two, I just think of Kucherov's Stanley Cup,
the press conference,
the press conference afterwards. Like, that's just phenomenal. And again, I think that's just stuff you don't really see as much from NHL players. And Kucherov, you know, like, normally would never be like that. But again, you know, you're pounding back Bud Lights and whatnot with the boys after a cup win and whatnot. Like, those are just interviews that you don't normally get in hockey. And so for a player to give that to us, I think is just awesome.
Yeah, I hated everyone hating on him for saying that, because, like, that was the most character we got in years out of the NHL. And we're so, in the NHL, compared to other leagues, we are starved for that kind of star power, charisma. Guys just being funny, going outside the box. Like, it's not something we get a lot.
And that's still one of the biggest differences between, you know, NFL players, NBA players compared to NHL players. Is NHL players just want to, like we talk about, play hockey, you know, get their money, and that's it. They don't want to be harassed by people. They don't want to be, you know, constantly badgered stuff. They just want to live a normal life and play hockey. And so we're slowly starting to see more and more players have those bigger personalities and whatnot, which is awesome. And so I think it's unfair that Kucherov gets a lot of backlash for it, because, you know what? I think any NHL fan sitting there being like, you know what? If I just won the Stanley Cup with my boys for the second year in a row, I'm pounding back beers. Yeah, I'm probably just going to be fired up in a press conference and say whatever I want because I'm on top of the world. And that's 100% within his right, because he's a back-to-back Stanley Cup champion and a big part of owning those two. So, because that interview is just fire. Like, it's so good.
And not only that, built-in rivalry every time we face the Canadians now. The place was booing so hard when we played them a couple weeks ago, when Kucherov, they just walked in. Kucherov one-timer, he scored like 12 seconds into the game. Like, not only did we score right at the start, but it was also Kucherov. Like, dude, the crowd was pissed, and it was great. Like,
yeah,
it just builds in a rivalry. One more thing I just want to say very quickly is shout out to the top comment on that Reddit post that I made about this little thing that we just did. Wilson versus Marchand is like choosing gonorrhea versus chlamydia.
Dude, actually, yeah.
And then the second top
I'm kind of
just
a softie for Marchand.
Yeah. The
But I know
second
other
top
people.
comment was just, I don't know why, but I always fucking loved Ally Afraidy,
Dude, I love Ally Afraidy.
which was a name I was not expecting to show up on there.
And you know what? We can even do it with you know, NHL
Retired
alumni.
players.
We can do it like we can do like a Yager and Steve Yzerman or something like that. Like we can go
Yeah,
many different ways doing that. So if
absolutely.
you want that, let us know because we will
Yeah.
do
Do
it.
you have any particular alumni, guys from the 80s, 70s, 90s, that you just like, just particularly like more?
Not really off the top of my head. I'm sure once if I kind of go through, I can make a list of guys, but off the top of my head, like there's not really any guys that kind of stand out fully to me.
Like a couple guys that just randomly stick out to me are I love Stevie Y, obviously for what he did, helped in
Yeah,
Tampa, but also Timu Solani. I just always loved Solani.
actually, yeah. You know what? Mike Bossy is
Yes,
arguably the greatest NHL goal scorer of all time. That's a hill I've been on for the longest time, and I haven't left my post on there. I still firmly believe that if he played the amount of games that a lot of those other top guys did back then, I think he would have the NHL all time goal score record, and it probably wouldn't maybe never be broken. I think just on the pace he was on for so long and what he was doing was just unmatched.
yeah, no arguments here.
Yeah, but again, yeah, if you want us to talk more about your team, you want us to keep kind of doing these fun little segments at the end. I mean, I think we're still going to do them either way. But if you want to give us suggestions for what you want to see, make sure to let us know again over on Instagram or Twitter/X at SEU Hockey. Tag us and stuff, tweet at us, DM us, harass us, whatever you want. We'll see it and we will make sure to cover it. Braden, you got anything you want to add in here before we hop off?
No, that was good. That way we covered pretty much everything.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks to everybody for listening, and we will catch you guys in the next one.